Pamela Greenwalt, Chief Communications and Marketing Officer at Screen Actors Guild American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, SAG-AFTRA, talks to host Doug Simon on PR's Top Pros Talk.
If you're familiar with the film industry, you probably remember that there was a recent strike by actors. And Pamela, can you shed light on what was the key accomplishment of that strike?
There were several, but I think the primary achievement, what we would consider a landmark achievement, was the establishment of guidelines around AI for our members, performers in the entertainment industry. Those guidelines are the first established AI principles that we're aware of in the country.
That's amazing because there's so much talk about how AI is changing or might change different industries, especially communications. It's a popular topic, but you really had to address it to protect your members. What do you see as some of the changes that will be coming to the entertainment industry because of AI and maybe some that you prevented?
Probably the most impactful and immediate changes is going to be to workflow. We're already seeing a great amount of scanning and the replication of name, image, and likeness. These obviously are of significant concern to us and were among the guidelines that we established. Our goal, our interest is to ensure that there is consent, control, and compensation, that our members, performers, actors in motion pictures, television series, streaming series, and on other contracts, but in TV theatrical in particular, that their work is within their control. They have the right to consent to the use of AI in the use of their performance or the creation and use of a digital replica, and that they're fairly compensated for that use. We're also very interested in ensuring transparency, as much transparency as possible. One of the significant issues facing every sector is the training of the large language models that drive AI on often copyrighted or stolen material. And the transparency into how those models are trained and the material that is used to train them is critically important.
Preserving humanity in the arts is obviously a key objective of SAG-AFTRA. What are some of the steps that you feel are important to do that? Maybe there's some carryover to people in other areas of communication.
Oh, I think absolutely. And can I broaden that? I think that
Sure.
maintaining the human artistry in all work is crucial for all of us. And that if you think about what AI is and what it does in the creation of a performance, whether it's a recorded music or video performance for screen, the AI is basically taking a lot of information of other performances that it has ingested, and it's using that to create a copy that is born of all of that, what's already been done, what's already been seen, what's already been produced. What it lacks, fundamentally, what all AI lacks, is the individual artistic spark, the humanity that made one performance or another extraordinary, that made one movie or book or song extraordinary. And as long as all it does is copy from a great big file of material that it's ingested, it lacks that creative spark. So what I think is important in our industry, in every industry, is to maintain the dignity of the human creators, the human workers who are producing both the creative content and in many ways the technical output, those people in crafts positions whose technical expertise is adding to the production value through other artistry, design, etc. For our members, performers in particular, I think that it's fundamentally our belief that a performance, the human artistry of a performance, cannot be duplicated by AI, but you can perhaps come close. So the ways in which we need to work within the industry and outside it to preserve the human component is through, first of all, I think legislation is crucial, and we are actively working and advocating for appropriate legislation on the state and federal level. We are working right now to pass a bill, the No Fakes Act, in Congress that actually protects everyone, not just performers, but everyone from deep fake video content, which is where your image is taken and made to do something that you never did. And that's a critical component. We can't do it alone. You can't do it just with union contracts. You can't do it just with legislative advocacy, I don't think. We need to have the will of the entire industry, of the creative community, of legislative officials, and of citizens.
One of the things, obviously people think of this as oppositional. You obviously had to have the organization's members go on strike to achieve what you wanted. Are there opportunities to be working together? Because it seems like that's a big part of your focus. So everyone benefits from the technology.
Absolutely. There is both labor and industry support for the No Fakes Act. That's a great example. And a kind of an important thing to understand is that the industry has as much of a stake in the creative ownership of the content, the intellectual property, the performance, the name, image, and likeness as the performer does. And in fact, we've worked together for years, decades even, on things like foreign piracy, when DVDs were being stolen and knocked off and millions of copies made and sold around the world. We worked very closely with the industry because that theft of that creative content impacts all of us. It impacts the studio's ability to make and distribute more creative product. It impacts the ability of our members to be properly compensated for the work that they do. So we do work very closely together.
Increasingly, and obviously based on what we're doing now, video podcasts have been evolving as a valuable tool for creatives. This is our 300th episode or so, and so great to have you be part of it. Do podcasts and their creative role, is that going to play a role with this whole AI advantage?
So I think AI is going to impact almost all creative content. It's definitely impacting journalism and media in general. We're seeing it in advertising. You probably just saw the Super Bowl ad that used some AI content. With podcasts, I don't know that I know the exact trajectory of the technology and how it's going to impact podcasts, but I do know that podcasts are an increasingly important part of brand marketing. So it's a way to, the brand package, your name, identity, your expertise, your authority. Podcasts are a way for individuals and particularly influencers to establish and build that brand recognition and brand value. And if you consider the technology, it is likely that you'll be seeing some of the same kinds of things in podcasts that you're seeing in motion pictures and television, in radio, where AI is potentially an avatar that is delivering content, which really, in a way, is kind of disturbing when you think about it for consumers. If you don't know that what you're watching is an AI avatar, that can be a troubling situation. And particularly with misinformation, disinformation, and more of that is being driven by AI technology. And that also is very troubling, particularly for our broadcasters. We represent broadcasters, television or broadcast journalists, and television and radio. And they actually were part of the new boom in podcasting.
Right.
Journalists who had a particular story to tell or covered a particular beat and wanted to go deeper than they were able to do on individual stories, developed podcasts, and it's sort of exploded. And there are now podcasts are huge, and I pretty much recommend to anybody who's brand building that a podcast is a really good idea.
Great. Well, thank you for that endorsement. It's appreciated. As
You're welcome.
as as we wrap up,
Mhm,
since most of our audience is PR people, communicators, what
mhm.
are some of the challenges around communicating around AI? Obviously, you had to do that at a very intense level with the strike. Any advice for others who are trying about communicating how AI is being used in their organization? For some, it's a very positive thing. For others, it's less so. What are some tips you might have for communicators to help communicate effectively about how their company, their client is using AI in its operations or offerings?
So in many ways, it isn't different than the fundamental rules of PR in general, right? Tell the truth, be honest. If you're using AI, be open about the fact that you're using AI and how you're using it. You can't really pull the wool over people's eyes. If you're delivering information, then it's presumably factual information. So be transparent about what you're delivering and the facts that you're basing it on. I also think that there is an opportunity for AI to be a useful tool. We're aware of, and we've actually done some very limited testing of AI as a drafting tool, where you might start with a rough draft in AI, but it takes a ton of work and a lot of polish before it's actual copy that you're going to use.
Right.
But if I can relate an anecdote, during the
Sure.
strike, we were contacted by a publication, an online publication that we weren't that familiar with. And there was an avalanche of media inquiries that we were dealing with as quickly as we could, but maybe 2 or 3 hours had passed, and we were not able to get back to this particular online publication. And a story appeared, and the story was a mess. It was wrong on so many levels. And so we wrote the reporter and said, "Your story's incorrect. Where did you get this information? How can we give you factual information?" And the email back was, "That must be the AI that I used to write the story." And
Mm.
I printed that and framed it because this was July or August of 2023. And it's the first time a reporter had admitted that they'd written an entire story using AI. So my advice for practitioners, public relations practitioners, but also for journalists with whom we work so closely, is to be factual. Fundamentals. Remember the fundamentals. Be factual, be authentic. AI is a tool. It cannot take the place of human effort, of human quality control, and of human input.
It's so interesting. It reminds me of the time where people would see stuff about themselves online that wasn't accurate. Might be an interesting tip from what you were saying for PR people to let journalists know not to use AI in stories about them because of some wrong information that's out there, almost preempting it, doing a check on yourself and your organization and those topics so you make sure you can correct that information proactively. Thanks so much for being with us. It's really a great, interesting conversation and continued success. And we love watching the fruits of your labor, whether it's in the movie theater, the TV, streaming, podcasts, all over the place.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here, and I appreciate you having me on.